Guys, just so you know, this could make you hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars. Listen up.
It could literally change the trajectory of their life, right? You've just dropped a bomb in the first few minutes of this podcast.
Give us the breakdown of like the first 3 steps anyone out there should do if they want to acquire property.
Right. So the first one is,
I've never heard of a monetization principle in property like that before.
That's crazy. No one thinks of this stuff.
and I'm like, I don't know if I'm worthy to even be paid $100,000. And I was like, no, I can do this. And I started making 1K a day.
When people have pressure on you, they believe in you and they're giving you responsibility. And as a man, we thrive off responsibility, right?
Start now and elevate your mind as quick as you can. Because if not, the world moves around you so fast, and it already is, and you know it deep down.
Alrighty, and welcome back to the Locker Room Chat podcast, guys. Hopefully, you've had a good week. I'm Jamie, this is Chris, and we've got Bayley as well on the left where he belongs. He's a massive lefty.
This is the right, bro. That's the right.
Oh, anyway. Today, boys, we have a very special guest, don't we?
Yeah, we're hyped.
We're hyped.
I'm
So,
very excited.
this friend, he's actually a friend. This person, I should
You
say.
guys are actually friends?
We're actually friends, yeah.
Okay.
So this
We're
friend of
trying
mine,
to be,
trying to be,
He just
trying
claims
to be.
it.
So this friend, we brought him on for a very specific reason. He is someone that I definitely get a lot of wisdom from. This man has actually acquired 0 to 45 properties in 3.5 years.
45 properties.
45 properties in
Wow.
3.5 years. He's got a property portfolio worth $13 million. He also does Airbnb. He's got 11 of them valued at about, he gets $600,000 of cash flow per year from them.
Wow.
And he was a ex-pro cricketer and an ex-social media prankster. And he's now a doctor, a real estate tycoon. He wakes up at 4 in the morning, 3:30 sometimes. Please welcome Sanjay Parasher.
Let's go.
Guys, we're here. Thanks for having me. Really
No worries.
appreciate
Bro,
it.
what don't you do?
What an intro, bro.
What
How
don't
are we
you do?
supposed to
That's
compare with
crazy.
that?
How do we top that?
I think it just reflects my crazy mind. I just want to try everything.
That's
Yeah.
it. Especially waking up at
And
3:30.
you've excelled at it, most of those things.
Guys, the key word is I want to try everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's try before you buy. I'm like, which one's going to get me as far as possible, as quick as
100%.
possible.
100%. I love that. I love that. Nah, bro. Honestly, yes. As I say, guys, Sanjay's a good friend of mine. And we actually catch up, once every couple of weeks?
Yeah.
We speak most days, and you have a lot of wisdom, bro, a lot of value. So
Thank you.
can
You
you jump
too.
into it? Thank you. Thank you.
I think we share it with each other for sure.
I guess from my end, so obviously Jamie's a good friend of mine and he's a good friend of yours. And he's told me, some really interesting things about yourself. But I want you to get into, I'm going to throw you in the deep end. I want to talk about some of your highest points. Like obviously you've accumulated quite a lot of money, quite a lot of wealth, quite a lot of success. What would you say, when you first made your first million, what was the first thing that you bought? What was like, I want to know.
Yeah.
I want to know.
Well, just to dive right into me, right? If you want to go real deep.
real deep.
I think the first thing is if I'm going to spend money, I'm like, how much is it going to make me?
Smart man.
So you invest.
So you didn't buy the Lamborghini first thing, or
No, I'm like, if I'm going to spend $1, what's the return on it? Always. That's always been my mindset. It's my parents' mindset.
Nice.
Calculate as much as we can. And I did, guys, I got 98% in general maths in year 12.
Oh, wow.
shit.
That served you well.
what a flex.
Right? So this is the shit, right?
Yeah.
Numbers guy.
Yeah. So I genuinely like the numbers, but yeah, first million. I think I bought a supercar, which was
one?
my
Oh,
Audi
you
R8,
did?
An Audi R8.
Nice.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
still got that, haven't you?
and I've still got that. Yeah,
It's like
kept
a
it.
sentimental. Like you probably wouldn't sell that for a little bit.
Well, it just climbs every year. It's just
Yeah.
climbing.
Well, so that actually
wow.
increases in value.
because
Every single year.
because
Yeah.
was it a last of its make?
Yeah,
or?
they don't make them anymore. 10
That's-
cylinder.
Okay,
That's
so that makes
genius,
sense.
bro.
Because I was
Wow.
thinking you just said you wanted to invest in things that go up in value, and then you said
Yeah.
I bought a car. So I was
Yeah,
like, hang
but-
on a second.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
plot
like,
I
twist.
got you there, bro.
So all my car mates say the exact same thing. They go, if you're gonna buy a car and you have the money, buy a car that's like the last of its generation. So like the V8 of a certain, like the Mercedes C63, they stopped making the V8. So one of my mates bought it and he was gonna sell it, and then he found out they weren't making them anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now it's, as you said, it's just making money.
Yeah.
Going further down the highs route, I know you spoke about buying a car. But were there any moments throughout this whole journey, I'm sure there have been highs and lows, but moments where you internally felt like, all right, I'm at a point now where I feel like I actually did something worthy and I'm like, I've not made it, but it's like it's difference between buying an asset and actually feeling that satisfaction.
No,
within you
feeling
where you're
made
like,
it. Made it's good.
It's like I made
Yeah.
it, or you got to a point whether it was, I don't know, a million cash flow or a certain level in property where you're like, okay, I've actually done something here, which is incredible. Like any key moments.
Do you know
like
what
that?
it was for me, guys? Like being in multiple countries for long periods of time and going like business is still running. That's when
That's
that's
sick,
like my
man.
first like sensation to go, holy shit, I'm sitting like in Turks and Caicos where in front of like Drake's home, all the guys are at work and I'm watching the time. It's like 9 a.m. in Sydney and they're all rocking up to work. And I'm
and I'm
like,
making money.
yeah,
and I'm
and
sipping on my
like,
margarita, and I'm just.
and I'm like, I'm here right now and I've been here for like a month.
That's hectic.
I think was it start of this year or start of last year? I can't even remember. I've been on so many trips, but I was away for like 2.5 months.
Bro.
Wow.
And
See,
I came-
that's literally the dream.
And I came back to my staff and I'm like, guys, like the reality is I've not been here for 2.5 months. Like this is what we're doing right now.
Wow.
And that was the first sensation to go, like, I was managing this team away from afar, from another side, on the other side of the world. Dude, I was on planes, like telling the guys, okay, like, guys, we're going to be doing this today. This is what we're going to be working
That's
on.
amazing.
And I'm like, this is like the shit.
Did you
Yeah.
did you optimize your business for you to be removed? Because I know that's kind of a mindset. Some people don't actually get that revelation early where they get stuck in the business. Were you, as you were on your way up, did you go plan it so that you could be removed and still have that? Did you
Like,
set
instead
it
of
up
trading
like that?
hours for
Yeah.
money?
Guys,
you
I just want to say this. Bailey's IQ level is so freaking high
100%.
because this question's going to like open up so many doors right
Here
now.
we go. I'm ready.
But I'll tell you this story. I was working with surgeons, right? And I was surrounded by these surgeons. And now in my profession, anyone would know in Australia, a podiatrist makes 80 grand a year.
Yeah.
We were in university and they're like, if you're in this for money, don't do this. Like I was super disheartened because I just want freedom, right?
Yeah.
Also make an impact as well. Don't get me wrong, in my profession. But anyway, long story short, I was with surgeons and I was happy with $500 a day. I was making $500 a day. I used to make $350 a week working at a gym.
Yeah.
So I'm like, $500 a day, I'm freaking killing it. I'm 24, 25. But the guy just in the room next door, like literally 10 meters away from me, he was making 30 grand a day.
Wow.
And I used to sit there at the end of the day,
Wow.
like full disclaimer, right? And I was like, I know how much this guy's made. And I'm like, what separates between me
Yeah.
and this Indian guy?
It drives you.
I'm like, I'm Indian, he's 65, I'm 25. But what actually separates us? And I'm like, it's a piece of paper. And the perception of that piece of paper on other human beings to go, this guy has more value than, say, me. And I'm like, this is going to like flip it on its head. Because I was like, he came up to me one day and goes, I feel sorry for you, how many hours you work. You're so young. And I'm like,
He actually said that to you.
yeah, he
said
came
that
up
to
to
you.
me and he goes, I actually feel sorry for you. He goes, you should be going out and playing badminton. But to get to it, man. And I just kind of knew even in that moment, I'm like, you have no idea, right? Like you're 60, 65, you're still trading your time for money. And yeah, you might make the money, but you don't do anything. And what's your life worth, right? And don't get me wrong, this guy operates on brains. So he has a big impact on society and that's what his mission is.
What's his role?
Brain surgery.
He's a neurosurgeon.
Neurosurgeon.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, but for me, right, I'm like, I know that you can't get other brain guys to work for you where I can get 20 guys to work for me.
Right.
That was
So
your point of difference.
Right, I'm like, my scalability is so high on my skill. And I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I need to come back out and teach me and make times 20 me, times 30 me. If I can do that, then there's a lot more reliability.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what happens.
So
to
you
me.
recognize that super early. I think that's
Early.
such a valuable lesson, and this is what we really advocate for in the locker room. This is why we bring people like you in, right? Because if the young guys and other people, young people out here listening, can get these revelations at a point where they're on the up,
Yes.
it could literally change the trajectory of their life.
They
right?
can
You
save
just,
10, 20
You've just
years on
dropped
them.
a bomb in
Yeah.
the first few minutes of this podcast that could set someone's life trajectory up to the point where they could also be in Greece on a work day and living it. Like
Yeah.
these are the mindsets that we want to download. So that's
It's
so
called,
valuable.
I think it's called location freedom. It's something like that where essentially, yeah, as you said,
Yep.
you don't need to be there. You can still be making money. And that's something that we've talked about as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, why wouldn't you in 2024? You know, like the
100%.
internet's just like going at rampant speeds, and I think if you're not somewhat online, you're doing yourself a massive disservice. And I think for you, bro, like I see, you've got so many things going on, but you're still able to operate from overseas, which is amazing.
One key thing, the mindset shift was I'm naturally very selfish. I'm the youngest child. So everything was given to me and I take, and I'm a very big giver, right, in my family. So I would go out and I'm great at making money. And I did that. But the key moment is when I actually brought people on and I'm like, hey, you can have half of what we make, but let's now get 5 of you or 10 of you. Right?
Wow,
That
wow.
scalability, because I'm so natural to go, I'm holding 100% right now. But that key moment when I was like, let's share, and that was my vision, that's when it actually exploded.
Wow.
So for any guys out there, like,
Yeah,
That makes
100%.
sense,
For sure, for sure.
So you were saying before you went from like 200,000 to $1 million. What was the most you would say you made in a year? I know it's not everyone wants to say, but I think we're in a comfortable space here.
yeah, I would say it's really hard, honestly, because I think I've got like 6 businesses, to be honest.
That's amazing, guys.
Yeah, but I think like gross revenue anywhere between 7 to 10. Like
That's
In 1 year.
insane.
Wow.
7 to 10.
Yeah.
People
7 to 10
dream
million
of that
dollars.
in a lifetime.
Yeah.
And he's making it yearly.
And so obviously, I'm very good friends with you, and we chat a lot, and I know that obviously we've just spoken about your sort of medical history and what you do in that space, but you're also a massive real estate investor. And just to preface as well, I've known Sanjay for a couple of years now, but I'm currently getting into real estate, and I've gotten so much good advice off you in the last few months. And I think my mindset as well, and I'm sure this is the same with a lot of you guys in the locker room and obviously us boys here, is that you want to be learning from someone that's actually done it big. Instead of obviously taking advice from, parents or grandparents that say, this works and play it safe and, get the first homeowners buyer's grant and free stamp duty and live in the place for a year. I would rather get advice off someone that's actually done it big. So,
Being successful.
Sanjay,
Yeah.
you've gone from 0 to 45 properties in 3.5 years. That's
insane.
crazy.
That's
That is
insane.
crazy.
Especially in the Sydney market. I don't know if they're all in Sydney, but
in Australia.
But in Australia.
yeah.
Bro, with interest
hard.
rates at like an all-time high, inflation, you name it, like you've done it so good.
It's
So
very rare.
I want to kind of dive into that. How did you succeed in property? Because property is something where, all humans need to live somewhere. So the locker room boys would be super, super keen to understand how you do it.
Well, guys, let me tell you this. If you can sell water and it's a necessity, you can sell property because it's a necessity as well, right? It's the biggest necessity out there, and no one values it that way.
I think with property, it's such a massive thing in every single country. And it's almost like, where do you start? And I remember asking you this question a couple months ago, and I'm 30 and I still haven't got property. I've wanted to do it for a while, but I've kind of, spoken to you about it and taken your advice. So, do you want to sort of tell the viewers what you told me about, getting my first place, which I'm currently underway
Yeah,
with. So
so
how do
many
you
boys.
start? How do the boys start? How do they get 45 in 3.5 years like you did?
I think start from, a few. You don't have to jump to 45. But, a
not
lot
what I
of
was
the
saying.
boys here, but a lot of the boys here maybe are thinking, similar to us. Yeah, I'd like to buy a property. I'll save some money. How do they go from a guy that's just got the idea to, pulling the trigger and doing what you've done?
Well, I want everyone to just look Jamie in the eyes right now, including all the viewers.
In the eyes.
Jamie is about to send out his first property offer tonight. It's
Should we
going to
do it
happen.
should we do it on camera?
It'd be sick. I need to give you the template, bar. I need to give Jamie the secret template. It hasn't happened yet.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
going to send that to me today. I'm waiting
Yes.
for
Wait,
it.
what's this template?
He was
Oh,
going to
sorry,
send
I'm
it to
jumping the
us
gun.
too, apparently, as well.
Right, but Jamie's going to actually send out his first offer today. So it's a big moment and
Amazing.
a big part of his
I love
career.
that.
So,
Wait.
yeah, I
Thank you.
agree.
Thank you.
Take
Thank
a
you.
minute.
Thanks, guys.
It's been a long journey, but he's finally there. He's actually going to throw offers out, which is crazy.
Amazing. So is that what you're suggesting to the people watching? Is that, come to a point where you've acquired a sum of money and then put out some offers?
Yeah, well, I think it all comes down to internal success first, right? And even like watching Jamie, he's been so successful for so long where he's like, all right, like I can continue to do this, but I need to diversify.
Yeah.
Now my mindset.
Diversify.
Right.
Yes.
And I think once you get to that point where you're like, okay, what do I do with all the income that I've made or the capital that I've made, or how do I find different ways to invest my money, and then being able to go, okay, like this is me. I'm a different person now, right? I'm now going to embark on this journey. Like that is the hardest step. And the first move I ever made was understanding, okay, how do I grow a portfolio from property number 1 to property number 3? That's all I was focused on.
And was that, you touched on it earlier, equity? Is that through equity you did it?
Yeah, it was mainly cash flow. So like for me, understanding cash flow was the first biggest key. If my mortgage was $500 a week, I'm like, how do I make $700 from this property? So I'll never have to worry about it ever again.
And are you thinking about that before you even get the property? So are there
100%.
any key mindsets or indicators that people should be looking for their first property? I know before the podcast we were talking about whether you look for positive gearing or different? Are there different frames or mindsets you should be for these guys out there? Like 3 key things they should look for in their first property,
Especially in this climate.
And
I know it's different,
and maybe
around
even
the world.
explain, because
Yeah.
some of the people watching won't even know what positive gearing is. You know,
I don't know why no one's talking about it.
yeah,
Like, it's crazy why no one actually talks about it. Why schools don't teach this.
crazy.
Yeah,
The
it's
education
crazy. So
system,
crazy, bro.
like,
Don't teach you how to do taxes, property.
there's so many things that it's flawed in, and wouldn't set a young man or a young woman up for their future.
So, guys, I'll give you 3 steps.
Yeah.
Give us the breakdown of like the
Yes.
first 3 steps anyone out there should do if they want to acquire property.
Great. So the first one is number 1, cash flow property. And what positive gearing means, it cash flows. So like my example before, if your income from that property is $700, you want to try and ensure a week, you want to try and ensure that you're paying less on your mortgage repayments, right? A lot of the time, you can manipulate your mortgage repayments, and this is step number 2. So the way you can manipulate your mortgage repayments is go to interest only. It's a misconception where people say go to pay your principal and pay off your property.
Right.
Complete false misconception.
Wow.
Interest
Because
only.
if your cash flow is really high, your serviceability to the bank is really high. And they're like, oh, great, Chris can actually service a lot because he actually ends up with thousands of dollars per week in his pocket. Let's go give him another property.
Yeah,
And the biggest thing is that if you then buy the right property, and this is the last step, is capital growth. If you buy the right property and it grows year on year, 50 grand, 100 grand, wherever you started. So if you bought that property for $500,000, every year your gap, right, your actual gap from what you owe on the property to what it's worth increases anyway. To the point in 10 years, it's going to be worth $1.5 million. Your $500,000 is so small. You're
Yeah.
like, what's the point of paying the principal?
That makes so
100%.
much sense. So you're saying pay as much as the minimum amount, as in just the interest. So you're not even paying any of the mortgage, or maybe is the person renting that covering the minimal amount
A large amount.
or
By
whatever.
easily. Yeah,
so
they'll
you're
cover
paying
it.
the minimal amount, and you're purely banking on the capital gains or
And the cash flow.
or the cash flow of that
Yes,
property
wow.
to service you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I?
And then
That
Imagine-
just clicked in my head
Dude,
so hard.
imagine
Like,
you had like, so then let's do easy numbers, right? Imagine
Yeah.
you're making $200 from every property.
Yeah.
Then you had 10.
Yeah.
Now you're making $2,000 a week in your pocket. Plus those 10 are growing by 50 to 100K per year.
especially in a market like Sydney.
It's all
Right? It's the
compounding.
best market
Yeah.
where the capital gains are so high.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're collecting each week. You're like, all of them are safe. Cool.
Yep.
Right. Let's just keep the tenants in there. And they're all growing substantially as well. You're like, holy moly, I'm collecting and they're going up. I'm
Oh
just
Yeah.
my
getting
god! I don't think
Yeah.
people understand how much
Yeah.
of a
Yeah.
gem that just was.
100%.
Like something just switched in my head where I'm like, I've never heard of a monetization principle in property like that before. It's
crazy,
I don't
man.
know that much about property, but that makes so much sense.
So can I just step in here real quick? So
Yeah.
obviously I was a massive newbie to property, still am actually. I've been probably going at it for 2 months now?
2 months.
And calling you most days about what you think about things. I just want to tell them, if that's all right with you, the formula that you gave me to calculate whether a property is good or not. Because I literally had no idea. I would go on realestate.com.au, be like, oh, house cool, $1 million cool. But how do you know if it's good or not? And I can actually tell the viewers what you
Right.
taught me.
Let's do it.
So let's do it right now. So what I do, right, you go on realestate.com.au, and I remember you taught me this. We were initially looking for blocks, weren't we? But we
Initially
kind of had
blocks.
to change our strategy, and let's just say we're going for a simple house now.
Yeah.
So
Due to multiple factors.
Multiple factors, yeah.
And one of them is time.
exactly. So you go on realestate.com.au, and for example, you go New South Wales house under $1 million, right? Click. Okay. So one thing you taught me was always buy near the water if you can.
If you can.
If you can.
Helps capital growth.
Correct.
There you go.
But if you just want a generic house and you want cash flow, then let's go here. So we've got a list view. I don't know which camera's mine over here. So let's go easy maths right now. And let's say we found a property worth $1 million, right? Let's say this is worth $1 million. So the first thing you told me to do was you want to know the price of the property, so $1 million, and you want to know the rental returns a week. Say it's $1,000, right?
And how do you find out the rental return?
So
We'll say it on the listing usually.
Oh, you
yeah,
do,
so
okay.
we'll usually say it. So $1 million and say they pay $1,000 a week in rent.
Yeah.
So Sanjay gave me this magic easy formula, which I just do without thinking now, where you got to calculate 2 things. The first one,
Guys, just so you know, this could make you hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars. Listen up.
listen up. I've been doing this for the past 2 months. So let's add up the amount of repayments that you need per year. So $1 million right here. That's $1 million right here. So you told me to times it by 0.8.
Nice. Well done.
Right? And that's
Why?
because the 20%, So 80% plus 20% is 100. The 20% is what you're going to place as a deposit.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so you need to work out what the rest is, which you're going to be paying off, correct?
Yes.
That's $800,000. So that's essentially your, repayments. However, then you said you got to times it by 0.06.
That's the interest rate, guys.
That's the interest rate,
Average interest rate right now.
average interest rate, and then you go equals. So essentially you can say, and this is interest only, right, per year.
Interest only.
So you have to pay $48,000 a year for this property out of your own pocket somehow, right?
Based on the 80% that you're going to borrow from the bank.
So I owe $48,000 a year on this property. Now you have to calculate how much rent you can get from this property to cover that cost. So let's say it's $1,000 a week
52,000.
times 52. But Sanjay said, don't act like this is all yours.
Yeah.
You've got things to pay for, such as servicing and council rates and strata
expenses,
fees.
yeah.
So you go times 0.8, and now that's actually what you have in your pocket. So if you once
here we
again,
go.
give me your phone real quick so I can put the two numbers together.
Yes.
So that's going to be a negative gearing property,
sir.
right? That-
Yes, correct. So if you put these two numbers together,
There you go.
all right. So once again, I owe $48,000 a year on this property, but I'm only getting $41,600 on this property. So Sanjay, good or bad deal?
That is a very, very, very bad deal.
Because I'm going to be down $6,400 a year.
Yep, negative geared property. So it actually sucks out your serviceability. See, banks like, look, this is a liability
Yeah.
right now, right? And the bank will be like, look, because Jamie has his property, he's liable for even more money now out of his usual salary, which means he's not likely to borrow for another property.
So they'll come after you for that. Because I was thinking, for example, if you're in a high growth market like Sydney, if you're only having to invest 6K in a property, but it's going up by, I don't know, 20, 30K a year, potentially, if you're able to fork out that 6K and it not affect you too much, if you can hold that property for 5-10 years, you could flip that to be a good deal, no?
It's a really good mindset because you're saying it only costs you $6,000 to then gain
to hold
X,
a
Y,
property.
Z.
Yeah.
And if it's in
Which is
on the
massive.
water, an amazing spot, and all you have to do is invest 6K, but you it's in a high growth market and it's going to go in the next 5 years.
Nice.
You
There's
could make back 200, 300K from that.
There you go.
In 3 years from an 18K investment.
Bayley, you're definitely thinking.
So which way do we go?
And there's another option, which we'll get into in a second, which is you said this is my second or third option.
But before we go into that, so you guys have discussed that initially it's a bad option. But then Bayley made a good point to say, hang on a sec, if you do have the outlay and you can have the time, is it necessarily a bad option?
Well, you actually want to have high serviceability so you can scale,
Yeah.
right? Because having just one property doesn't allow you to scale and have diversity, right? Because what happens if that area doesn't grow?
Yeah.
True.
You're actually, it's a fallacy because you're preempting growth rather than actually knowing. No one knows what's going to grow or where it's going to grow as well, right? So having diversity, but also cash flow is number one. Because if you lose your job tomorrow, where are you going to get 6K from?
Exactly, and you're stuck.
Right? If your tenant leaves tomorrow...
That's true, it's a good point.
If your tenant actually leaves tomorrow and then you've got 10 weeks...
You've got to outlay.
Now you're going to be pumping 16K into the property.
100%.
Yeah, that's true.
And the bank's going to be like, look, this guy's got no idea what he's doing because now he's lost $16,000. If we give him another one, he's going to lose another 16. He's going to come up with $32,000.
Yeah.
So
you're just opening yourself up
So
to
the
risk.
risk versus reward is not warranted.
Yeah, you actually want to make the bank your friend, right? I almost speak to my bank, honestly, very regularly, right? And I've got very key connections into the bank.
Yep.
And we're always having conversations on what the next deal is. They know where my mind is because they're backing me, right?
Oh, that's such a good point. Yeah.
So keep the bank as your friend by
as your
not
friend.
having extra outlay.
Now what happens if you can't find a deal that's positively geared, like I can't at the moment?
Well, guys, I just say jump in, right? Like if you can't find it, you do the calcs and you're like, look, I'm stuck right now. Just jump in. Because sometimes you can get decision fatigue. And with decision fatigue, right, like you'll be like, what do I do next? And you get tired.
Yeah, deadly.
Just looking, and then you start to lose confidence.
Yep.
So what I was able to do was turn even a positive gear property into an even more positive gear property by turning them into short-term accommodation. And it kind of makes me smile when I think about it. 'Cause I'm like,
Started smiling.
I'm like, this is like a level on top of another level.
Yeah.
I'm like, instead of making $300, I want to make $1,000 right a week
Wow.
from a unit. And that sort of changed the game. So if you guys are out there, you guys are really struggling to find a property and you know that you have the potential to do more and you trust yourself and you back yourself, go in there and turn something into an Airbnb, turn into a short-term accommodation.
Here we
You
go.
know, like, because you guys, if you have the confidence and you know you can do it, you can actually do it. That's
Love
my
it.
advice.
And you're about to start teaching people how to do Airbnb, aren't you?
Look, I wish I had the time, but yeah, one day hopefully we can set up, a medium where people can understand how to do it and do it even better and learn how to, scale even an Airbnb portfolio, of their own one day.
Love that. All right, let's take this conversation into a whole new trajectory, a completely different angle. We've gotten so much value on the property side of things, but one thing I'm really curious to understand about you is, right, from the intro that Jamie gave you, I don't know you as well as Jamie does, but I heard ex-professional cricket player, comedian, doctor, property portfolio, made millions of dollars. You also look shredded you look like you work out. Like
I can't stop looking at his arms.
bro, you're a good-looking guy. To a young man's perspective, you tick every single box. But
It's funny because to my partner's perspective, apparently I don't.
I was gonna say, but what about women? What about women?
No, that's so good. But I want to go into mindset. I want to understand what drives you. To do all those things by 30 is 0.0001%. And I'm sure it takes a lot of capacity, motivation, drive that not a lot of people have. So is there certain things or tricks or moments in your early childhood that set you up like this?
Yeah, it's a
and
good
I want to dive
question.
into that.
I've said this story a few times in my life, and there was this key moment. I was probably 8, maybe 10, in the backseat of my parents' car. They were just middle class, but worked really hard. And I said, "Mom and Dad, I've got to tell you something." And I said, "I want to let you guys know that I am not normal." And they're like, "Wait, what?"
Wow.
Like I'm actually.
Wait, at 8?
I'm not
At
gonna
like
say
8 or 10.
Oh my gosh.
I know exactly what you're
I'm not
thinking.
gonna say it.
I'm like, "Look, I'm not normal."
Yeah.
And they're like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "Look, don't ever put any restraints on me. I'm not going to live a normal life. I'm not a normal person. I'm not going to have a normal job. Like, nothing is going to be normal about me." And the reason why I picked this up was it's like I could feel energy, right? And like my parents would take me like to professional cricket matches, and like I was like really into cricket at that time, and I knew I was going to be a pro. I'm like, I'm going to be the best. I'm going to be on TV. This is going to be my life. And I'd go to these matches, and somehow we even knew like some professional cricketers. And I got to meet a few of them, and I'm like, that's going to be me. Like, I'm going to be walking out of the bus, and all the cameras are going to be on me, and like everyone's going to be calling my name, and like I know what
You
that
could just
feels
feel it.
like.
So you're envisioning it almost from such
Manifesting
an early
it.
age.
Yeah, wow.
Right? Like I could feel what they feel like, and I'm like, that's what I'm gonna feel like. That's what I feel like right now.
That's
right?
incredible. Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm gonna make that
crazy.
happen, no matter what happens. Like that's gonna be me. And then whatever I've put myself into, I'm like, I know my value. I know exactly what I'm made of. Like it feels like I can feel my soul, and I'm like, it's irrelevant on what's happening in the physical layer because I can push myself so much harder than it's perceived possible that I still won't be impacted on the inside. Right? Doesn't matter how bad the bad news is, doesn't matter how good the good news is, I actually do not change. Like you won't get a really high or low reaction. If I make 100 mil, I'll still be the same person, right? Like, so I think what really changed it for me is I know my potential, number one, and that potential continues to drive me. Based on the potential I know, I don't want to have any regrets. So I'm like every single day, like what time is it now, guys? No one even knows. Can I tell the time?
Yeah, please.
Like these guys don't know how hard we grind. It's 9:08 p.m. and I've been up since 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like
Doing the reps.
just doing it, right? Every single day. Like it's just a normal day. And if I can make the most of every single day and go, look, I've made progress today. Like I know that I've got closer to my goal. And it's like that Arnie story.
Yeah.
It's like every single rep I knew I was closer to a world champion.
Yeah.
But the fact that you had that at such a young age
Yeah,
is almost
crazy,
incredible. So
man.
do you think it's partly innate within you, or is there elements of this that you can develop?
I think developing is the biggest key, right? Because I have developed over time and I've had to continuously develop based on pressure. And every time I've felt low moments or a lot of pressure, like that can break you.
I love that.
Wow.
There's a good quote that I've
Pressure.
heard, which is pressure is a privilege, and
It
actually
is,
makes you feel alive, right? When people have
Wow.
pressure on you, they believe in you and they're giving you responsibility. And as a man, we thrive off responsibility, right? So that
Pressure makes
really
diamonds.
resonates to me that you said pressure.
It does.
So going to all the young people out there on being able to build that mindset, are there a few, 2 or even 3 key things that you might help? Maybe they're not motivated right now. Maybe they're like, this guy is so far out of my game. I'm struggling to even get out of bed in the morning.
Yep.
I struggle to even go to work. How am I going to get to 45 properties?
Yeah.
Are there a few key things that they can start on right now that just gets the ball rolling? Because we believe everything's a momentum game as well,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Set the mindset.
Yeah.
Success
I think
loves speed.
being honest to yourself of where you are in your timeline is so important. And people often can't even think about what they're going to do next or what tomorrow's going to bring. But imagine you could just pull yourself away and go, okay, when I'm 80 and I look at myself when I'm 20, I've only got probably another good 10 years left in my life until I might have a family, a kids, a mortgage, a house, and I'll start to slow down. Like my hormones will start to go, like diminish. I'll have saggy boobs, you know, like the whole lot.
Yeah.
And no one knows, if you actually look at your timeline, guys, you probably only have a good 5 years left. Max a good 10 years left if you're listening to this. Or you might even be over that edge. Or you might not even have any time left and you're actually diminishing right now as the physical layer. And if you are diminishing, make the most of what you've got, because next year you're going to be a little bit slower, and the year after that you're going to be even a little bit slower, and you're going to learn it slower, right? So if you have a good hard look at yourself and you're going, okay, this is the best I'm going to be, I'm in my prime right now, you just got to get up and put yourself into the deep end. You guys put me into the deep end on this podcast, right? And like, you just have to do that, and you have to get yourself out there. Look at your parents that love you, and they want to back you at 100%. Why won't you do it for them? Why won't you do it for
100%.
yourself? Why won't you do it for that little kid that you were, that you knew every dream was possible,
You didn't do it.
and you made promises to yourself back then to go, I'm going to be this and I'm going to be that, and now you're some 20-year-old thinking that you know the world, but you're not going to do anything about it. You know, keep that promise to yourself as a child.
I love that.
I think one thing that a lot of people struggle with is that motivation and momentum element. And I think that motivation is it can be a fleeting emotion. And I just wanted to ask you for your advice. Like, if there are guys out there watching and obviously they want to be something, but they're in a bit of a rut, you know, maybe they've got relationship problems, financial problems, they're working a 9 to 5, they don't want to, you know, be working in, and they're just kind of in that little like space where they feel like they're trapped. Like, what's the first thing they can do to get them on their way?
Change your physiology is the biggest thing, right? Like, I'm like a science whiz. Like, back in the day, like I used to have my mates and we used to go to the gym and we used to like put all these like free aminos into our drinks because we're like, we're going to be jacked, right? And the reason why is because if your physiology is improved,
Yes.
right,
It's tangible.
it's you'll see a direct measurement on how great you feel.
Yes.
On your mind will operate at a high capacity. And because you're operating at a high capacity, your ability to process information, make an adequate decision, feel calm, and execute is 10 times better.
Absolutely.
Straight away.
Nick,
So
what did I
good,
tell you the other day? I said to you, I reckon I'm doing a lot more and my capacity is far greater. I'm 10xing everything I'm doing because I'm on a cut.
Wow.
Purely because I'm on a cut.
You're efficient, right?
I'm efficient because I have no choice but to measure my food, track my calories, get three cardio sessions in a week, plus 5 days a week gym. Like, I have to do it. I have to get 15,000 steps. I'm only on 13 actually right now. And by me having... Huh?
You had a little freak out there.
Yeah, I did actually. But by me having to do things, it's the first step. This is what I've found is the most important thing.
Yes.
If I'm ever not motivated, I go, what's the first thing I can do? Okay, start cutting. I go on a 12-week cut, just focus on that. Then my whole lifestyle is based around my cut. I've got to wake up at a certain time, go to the gym this certain time, and then I've got to get these steps in every day. I've got to get 3 times cardio a week. And then that sets me up
Starts
for
the
my
momentum.
entire week, where now I'm like used to the momentum, and that brings momentum.
Love that.
That's
Forced
my
discipline,
personal...
bro. That's what we always
forced
say as
discipline,
well.
yeah.
Exactly.
Just on that as well, I know you said things about physiology. I want to go into, are there certain supplements or lifestyle habits, training regimes, diets?
Yes.
Because these are things that people can implement
100%.
today, right?
Today, yeah.
Mindset's maybe a bit of a ball game. Is there anything that you do to optimize your physiology? You're a doctor as well. I'm sure you have a few secrets that the boys can literally, and the girls out there can go, I can start that today, and that'll get the ball rolling.
Look, I want to make it accessible, and we won't go too high because obviously you can spend money and get doctors involved and blood tests and the whole lot, but it costs money. And a lot of the people out there go, well, I can't afford $600 right now just to go and get blood tests, etc. So let's start with basics. And I will take you guys back in time when I was making $300 a week, and I'm like, look, I can only spend $10, right? I would get the best amino acids via research. And I'd get leucine, which is great for protein synthesis, and I'd get it at a ratio with valine and isoleucine, and we'll take that before I work out, after I work out, at the right time.
That's what I'm drinking now.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
That's why you're big, bro.
It's just the
This is what we're missing out on. So if I drink BCAAs, I'll look like you.
A few more steps, but yeah.
And then, we'd break it down. I'd have like tuna cans, I'd have coffee, and I'd know what each thing I'm putting in my mouth does for my body, right? At all times. To the point where like I'll be playing cricket and I thought I was like a genius and I thought I was on some like secret drug because before I even used to go out onto the field, I'm like, pump L-carnitine. And I'm like, I'm going to be shredding. These guys don't even know. I'm going to be shredding for the whole day. I'll even run off the field, like at drinks break, more L-carnitine. But like straight out
the
there.
best. I love that
Right?
stuff.
And I'd be taking creatine. I'm like, these guys don't know I'm on creatine.
Bro, creatine's a game changer.
I take
day.
it every day.
Every day.
If
I
I
think I
don't,
told
I'm
you to
much
start getting
weaker.
onto
Yeah.
it.
Right?
Yeah. I
But
can feel it.
these substances at their base layer have so many physiological effects, even on your brain.
100%. People don't think about it. They think it's just physical. They think it's just your body's improving. But there's so many things that actually contribute to your brain.
Right? They think it's a fad. But if you can just supplement yourself with the right compounds, example like that, I used to take so many tablets. I used to take all my vitamins. I used to come home and just be disciplined with what I put in my mouth. That literally changed my game. And I've never not done it. Dude, I used to go to festivals, be like the most shredded kid there, and everyone would be like, what's this kid on?
We must not have been at the same festival.
I don't think we have.
I love that. You call him straight out.
I don't think but how old are you first?
I'm 29.
Oh, wow. Okay, same age, 30. We definitely went at the same festival.
Just playing.
But yeah, like, and people used to think like, these guys must be on something, right? But honestly, it was just like being switched on and focused and knowing what to do and what to go in your mouth. It just built confidence.
100%.
And I turned into like, let me tell you guys another story.
Yeah.
The first party I went to was I was like 16 or 17 because I was just so focused on my career, cricket, studies. Well, I got to like clubbing. I didn't even know how to hook up with a girl. Dude, I didn't even
Did
know how
Jamie
to
teach you?
kiss a girl.
Some of the boys here still probably don't know.
Guys, it was me. I went to a club and I was with my mates and there were the cool guys, right? Because we went to a sports high school. So I actually had really cool friends and I was pretty cool, but just didn't have experience with girls. And I'm like, how do you get the girl like that you just on the dance floor like to hook up with you? Like, what do you say to him? Like, how does it work?
How do you do it?
We don't know.
How do you do that?
do it?
Like, and this is what it came down to, right? They're just like, look, just be yourself.
Confidence.
Confident.
Yeah.
Be confident, have fun.
And
the
back,
moment-
and back to your knowing your value as well. I think that comes into play.
because people can feel that energy.
100%.
And it just switched. I'm like, I'm just gonna hang out with my mates. I'm gonna do what they do, right? And these guys were like hard to get. That's what they would play. They were like, girls would come near and be like, hey, get out of the way. And girls were like, whoa, what's going
Flip it its
on?
head.
I agree. I
So
couldn't
you
agree
guys,
more.
it's almost like you guys are the prize, if anything.
Right? But like, get out of our circle. Like, don't be here right now, right? And
What, and you think that had an impact, like a positive impact?
which is who I was hanging out with. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like if,
And what was, sorry, I don't cut you off, but
Yeah.
what was it about those guys that was the attraction? Was it purely looks? Was it their presence? Was it the way they carried
the
themselves?
confidence.
Confidence.
They
Because
weren't
we're all
desperate.
athletes.
They weren't desperate.
They weren't desperate. We were
Girls,
all
really-
athletes.
girls will feel desperation
Yeah.
of you.
Yeah,
yeah.
If
You've
you're
been
just
in fruit
standing
effect.
there, bro. If you're just standing at a club and you're just like, oh my god, I'm gonna speak to a girl. I'm gonna speak to a girl. They
Yeah.
can feel that. But if you're the
Yeah.
guys that are having the best time ever and you're disregarding every single female there, they're gonna go, who are these guys? Why I'm hot? Why aren't they talking to me?
Why am I even not validated?
Yeah, they must be something big. Let me go talk to them.
Dude, it got to a point where like I'd go out and I'm like, I'm not gonna go back in a club. Ready? You ready for this one?
Yeah.
Bomb. Unless I'm being recorded at all times. Like I'm like, I want someone to follow me with a camera, big flashlight.
Yeah.
Like on me at all times.
you did
And
that?
I was like, no, I was like, that's when I'm like going back into a club now. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm way past this,
Yeah.
right? Like that's
Wait.
what I said to myself. Like that's how high the standard got.
Yeah.
not
Wait, so you
right.
actually did that?
No, like that's when I was like, I'm not gonna go back into a club now.
Oh,
I'm like,
right.
I'm way past clubs. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but
right.
it was a confidence thing, right?
Yeah.
And it all started from supplementing right, playing sport, looking good, feeling good, hanging out with the right people.
That is such a gem because their presence inside the club was built outside the club.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
That's such a gem.
Through the hard work,
Yeah.
right? Through the discipline.
And they carried that because they knew they were doing everything right. They carried themselves at a level where they were confident. They knew they were doing all the right things, and that alludes in your presence and how you interact with people. And people really, as you,
100%.
I know you're a big presence guy and energy. So other people are very receptive to that too. So if you're carrying yourself in that way, people feel that on you.
they feel that.
And he worked on his internal Guys think that it's just external. Oh, I wasn't wearing the right clothes. I'm not good looking enough.
I didn't have
I'm
a
not strong
Rolex
enough.
on.
Yep.
But yeah, but it's
So
it's he worked on his internal. He got himself fitter. He built his internal confidence, which then exuded into everything else he did, and then everything else just came to him.
That's such a gem because it's almost like it was the internal was more than the external, right?
100%.
People sometimes think, oh, yeah, if I didn't rock up in a Lambo at the front and I'm wearing a Rolex and I'm all kitted out and I look like the man, then people will feel it. But the reality is it's just the look doesn't get you across the line, right? Because if you
100%.
look the part, but when people talk to you, you're not there because you don't have that
cagey.
confidence.
Yeah, KG.
They'll see straight through it within 2 seconds.
And some people
So
try and overcompensate for a lack of internal, value they have of themselves.
compensate. That's a good one.
With over delivering on the outside. So say, for example, you see that guy with a Lambo, you see that guy with all the designer gear, but then when you speak to the guy, he can't even say a word with, he can't even string a sentence together. And I think, you've got to obviously, work on the internal before the external even plays.
Without going too much further into this, like we've all seen the guy that's got, we think from the external, has got nothing going on for himself. Not good looking, not rich, nothing. And he's confident and he's pulling girls left, right, and center.
Yes.
And
100%.
we think to ourselves, how is this happening?
Pete
And
Davidson.
this is because he's confident. He
Exactly,
knows his value.
We just think they have got some sort of secret in their pants.
Yeah, all that.
Yeah.
Right. But
Yeah, he must have a
but
big
they've obviously we've just answered that question. They've obviously worked on their internal. They're very confident and they know their value and they know what they bring to the table. And that's all it is. That's all it is.
So
And girls feel it.
self-secure, they're not insecure at all, right? Like they're so self-assured.
Yep.
When they speak with conviction,
Yep.
right? They'll tell someone what they want, what they don't want. Right? Imagine you walked in and you met a girl and you're like, hey, this is great, this is not good. Your hair looks good, but you could have improved here, but you're a great person. Like you're just so clear.
Yeah.
People
Yeah,
love that.
It's
What
all,
do you, what do you think the first three things would be for any guys out there to implement self-growth internally and externally, just like right now if they wanted to from the
Well,
get-go?
I want to take you even to today, right? I'm like, I'm going to push myself so hard that I feel so great about myself. And I think the first step is if you push yourself and find your limits, you realize that you don't have a limit,
Wow.
Wow.
right? Think about this for a
Yep.
sec. Even, Chris, you've probably done some crazy workouts before. And sometimes you're like, no, I can't bench 130. But you've done it.
You've
like,
done it.
you've
Oh, have you done it?
100%.
Yeah. Makes no sense.
Like, it's
Because
in
you
your
put
mind,
that you had put that limitation on you and then you just exceeded past it.
right? Like
There
even
is
making $1
unlimited
million,
potential.
like you think, I'm not worthy of that. Guys, when I first started my business, I'm like someone on an $80,000 salary, $100,000 salary, they got a good job. So my goal used to be, I need to make $2.5K a week.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know if I'm worthy to even go to an employer and be paid $100,000.
You didn't know your worth.
Right? And I was like, no, I can do this. It went from 2K a week, then I started making 1K a day.
Yeah.
And I remember, I'll tell you guys this story. I remember the first time I made $1,000 a day.
Yeah.
Hear me out for a sec. Everyone had left the office. I was still very young. And I stood at the window and I was watching cars drive past. And I'm like, you guys are all on 60 grand a year. And I was like, I just made that. I made your weekly wage in a day.
Yeah.
Like it's actually possible.
yeah.
It's actually possible if you just make the right moves and help the right people.
I love that.
And that literally just broke my mind instantaneously.
So work on your
That's amazing.
internal, boys.
Yeah.
If you're stuck, if you're worried that you can't get that business, your value's not there, you can't talk to girls, work on your internal.
One step at a time.
Yeah, one step
What
at a time.
drives you? I know I already asked you, but I want to go deeper into that because, like, what drives you? What is it? The amount of money you can make? Like, is there a certain limit you want to get to where you'll be satisfied? But like, I know we address it, but I want to go deeper. Like, what fuels you?
I think freedom, right? So freedom on a decision, right? And I think in the world and everyone out there, you guys have grown up in families, you guys have been around your parents. How many times have, mum and dad spoken about money at the dinner table and be like, look, we've got this bill now, what are we going to do? Like that level of worry on something that doesn't even matter. Like imagine you're waking up and you're always on a clock. You're still 50 and you have to wake up at a certain time. You have to be somewhere on someone else's time.
Yeah.
Because someone else is telling you to be there.
Yeah.
Right? Like there is no freedom in watching the clock. Right? I think when I'm 80 and if I've watched the clock my whole life, like I'll be very disappointed with myself. And I think if there's no freedom on choice or no freedom on, you can't afford something, like I don't think that's a way to live.
I agree.
Because you should be able to go and do what you want, not to really necessarily make you happy, but to be in that present moment to go, okay, this needs to be done right now and not have to worry, not have to calculate. I think the freedom that comes with that is
Love
so
that.
liberating.
There we go.
So
Right?
liberating.
100%,
But
100%.
it's almost exponential where it can then go on to your kids. And even for the life you live right now, right, you can live in such a different dimension that you're not bound.
I love what you said. Like, it's generational. You're setting your bloodline up, which
Yeah.
is a big calling, and that's a big weight to carry, right?
For sure. And I think one thing is we don't realize the opportunity we have where I'll say this right now, some of us right now are the most successful we've ever been in our whole family's history.
Yeah,
Yeah.
No one realizes this.
it's crazy.
That's massive.
Look, we've talked about a lot of positives here. We've talked about mindset. We've talked about internal, external, how to improve yourself. But with all the ups, there's got to be some downs. We've all experienced them. We've all discussed between us.
100%.
And, I can imagine with your level of success, I want you to tell the boys at home and the people watching at home that with great success also comes a lot of downs. A lot of downs, a lot of failures, a lot of mistakes. And I want to dive into that. I want to flip it on its head. I want you to tell us, what was the most lowest point of your life where you thought, this is the end. I failed. I'm not worthy. Because I'm sure we've all felt that at some point.
For sure. Well, let's go like 6 months ago, right? Like there was a media release about me, and this was like I think it would have been like a 10-month investigation that these people were doing. They were trying to like contact every person that I've ever contacted or touched. And I think they found like 3 people out of maybe 10,000, right? And they launched this crazy media release after had all this positive media to go like, this guy's questionable. What's he doing? He's ripping people off, right? And this was on national TV.
Wow.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
That's a big ego and
Massive to the ego, especially. And not even to my personal ego, but more to the people that trust me to
Believe in
put
you.
food on their tables
Yeah.
every single afternoon.
wow.
Right? Like, I trust this guy. He's my leader. Whatever he says, like, we've now built so much success in our own lives. And then now the whole country's saying this about him.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even to the point where it was those people, because they knew internally how what we do. But it was their family members. Right? Like, what are you doing? Are you seriously working for this person?
Instant doubt.
Instant. And it was a fallacy, right? Traditional media, fallacy. It was like a matrix blitz to go, okay, this guy's like punching the matrix really hard at such a young age. How is it possible? There has to be something wrong, right? So then all of a sudden to go, okay, like, let's just go hard. Let's put him on all the news articles. Let's make stories about him.
Crazy.
And what happened was, for the first time in my life, right, I had to now depend on people's emotions compared to the logic behind everything we do,
Wow.
right? Because it was up to people's emotions on what decision they made, on then how that impacts what we do and how we actually genuinely serve people. And guys, it literally just everything just went sideways in my life, because everything I've worked for had to change instantaneously. I knew I had to change as a person. How I thought about things had to change. And this is what I thought. I'm like, how do I create something where I don't rely on anyone anymore? Like, that's how much pain I felt in that moment, because it was everyone just attacking me as a person rather than, for the first time ever, what I do. They just thought I was the problem.
Yeah, that's a heavy blow. It's almost like your credibility
became
was
the
shot
villain.
overnight.
Right?
You became a
Overnight.
villain.
Instantaneously.
And you lost businesses, didn't you?
Dude, we lost it was the first time I ever worked with people, and the partners that I had stopped trusting me.
Wow.
And I'm like, guys, you know how we run our business.
Yeah.
You guys are in the business. And I'd brought people in, right? In different states at the time, right? I used to run my own state. But just to expand further, we had multiple states running. Like, this was driving really quick. And because of one media release, think about this. People are so emotional. Whatever the screen shows them, they believe.
They
Wow.
believe it.
And
They're
But
pretty
they couldn't come to
convincing.
me.
They're pretty convincing, man.
Right? They play like music tricks in the background. They
Yeah.
like make it like gloomy, and they play on people's emotions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people are followers. Like even in times of injections and medications, they're like, you need to get this. And people are like, okay, I'll go and get it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so true. I love what you said before. Is like they didn't even come to you. You've got this. You've built this relationship with these people over 3 years. Something on a screen is presented. They don't even have the balls or the capacity to come to you and
To
say,
the source.
What I want to hear your perspective about this.
Yeah.
What do you have to say? What
And
they
even
just
when-
shut you out straight away.
Even
Or
when you
just-
tell them, they're
Don't
like,
believe
I
you.
still don't know what to believe.
But you know what the saddest part
That's
is?
crazy,
You know what the saddest
man.
part is about this whole mainstream media tarnishing someone's image? It's that their pure intention of tarnishing this person is just so they can get some hit story for themselves that day.
100%.
That's all it is.
100%.
It's not even about you.
They don't
It's
care
not
about
about
you.
They'll try and
Yeah.
find
They don't
any
care about you.
little thing in the world of anyone doing something bad that has some sort of success or notoriety, whatever it is. And I've copped it as well, as you guys would know. Like
Yeah.
I've copped it in the media to the point where I had to leave the city that I was living in for at least a week because it was getting so crazy.
Yeah.
So when the media actually come at you and destroy you, you've got to bounce back. You've got to be resilient. You've got to have that framework that you talk about and that we all talk about in the locker room that get you through those tough times and allow you to see from like a different perspective. You can always come back from things, and that's
And
obviously
we've
what
seen
you've
that
done.
a lot.
We've seen that a lot,
we've seen that a lot.
but I'm sure although that was something difficult in your life, you were still able to bounce back and sort of turn the dial even harder potentially.
Yeah, how did you turn such a big negative where the world turned against you, with all your businesses, in jeopardy? How did you turn that into a positive, and how did you, become the successful entrepreneur that you are?
Guys, I was like so thankful. I remember I put up a story and I'm like, the world's literally watching me. It was like the day after the media release and my
Make it a
social media was
positive.
getting hounded, right, by the trolls at this point. And I'm like, they're all watching right now. And I said this, like I went to the beach in the morning and I'm like, thank God, because God has planned this life out for me.
Wow.
Right? I'm like, thank God. And
Wow.
I put on my story, I'm like, thank you, God, for giving me this great life because this is what I'm made for.
So you kill them with kindness.
Look at that.
That is-
You kill them with
perspective,
kindness.
though. Perspective. So many people would just quit. They
Yeah.
say, "I'm done. I'm finished. I'm never gonna I'm never gonna recover from this." But you've just seen. Hang on a sec. Let me change my perspective from a negative. Everyone's watching me now. This is my moment to do something.
Yep.
Right. And but think about this in the background, I'm getting like emails, resignation.
Wow.
Every time the email will go off, like I got traumatized. Resignation. I'm like, cool. We lost another staff member. Resignation. Cool.
And you would
Lost
have had
another staff-
personal
Oh my
relationships with these staff
gosh,
members.
Right? And it wasn't even our customers. Our customers were so loyal. They're like, you guys will have a great brand. Like, we know what you're about. No worries. Like, we're still here.
Yeah.
It was the internal guys and their
Wow.
emotions.
Wow.
Right? And
The
everything-
ones that you were in the office with.
yeah, and I gave them everything. Dude, I gave these guys every opportunities. Resignation. And I'm like, I'm made for this. I'm like, thank God, whatever happens, I know God wouldn't put me in this position right now if I couldn't handle it.
Wow.
I can't believe that, bro.
Wow.
Like,
Dude,
to have
that's
that
crazy.
mindset when the world is falling around you, and this is what we love talking about as well. When the world is falling around you, or whether it's going up, when you have that stability and that faith, the fact that you could even say, bro, like,
Faith.
this is my path. This is what I'm
Yes.
destined
Yep.
for.
Yes.
It's almost like you're walking into it and it's like, this was meant to happen. So
Yes.
I've got to ride through it.
It's
That
almost
is like, to
storming.
have that mindset is what separates you. Now I can see that
God's
makes
put
more
it in
sense
your
why
journey.
you're who you are today.
That's right.
God's put it in your journey.
In my journey, and guys, part of my story, and it's going to, even if more happens, it's going to be part of my story. And I'm
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
accepting of it.
Wow.
I love
like-
that.
That's
I'm going to adopt
mature,
that.
bro.
That's crazy. That's so good.
Yeah, like I'm
That's
going to do
amazing.
what's right every day, and I know I'm going to do the right thing every single day. And I tell our staff, let's do the right thing. It's okay. Like we're going to keep going, right? And just follow the process. But if more is to come, I'm so accepting. I'm like, bring it on. Like anyone out there, I'm like, bring it on because like we're made for this, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We're on the up climb again. Obviously, in the meantime, I've started multiple businesses, and my main mind shift was how do I never rely on someone, right?
Yeah.
And Bayley, I told you before, I picked up my own marketing. I'm like, I don't need to rely on people to do my own marketing. I'll learn the marketing. I'll do it all. I'll be in control, right? If I'm going to do the investing, I'll do it all. You want me to hire? I'll do it. You want me to be the manager? Cool. I'll do it all. I'll find the actual software. I'll find the systems to manage people and help them and give them the
Wow.
right resources.
Far out, man.
Sorry, just want to jump on that. Do you not think that's going to cap you? If you try
Not
and
at
hold
all.
control and everything?
Because I'm learning the necessary skills and I've already done that. And now I'm like now on teaching. And these guys that are now coming to the business are like, whoa, like this is mind blowing. How much AI do you use? Whoa, this is mind blowing, right? How do you hire? Oh my God, this is mind blowing.
So you still have the trust to delegate. You're not trying to because I know that, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm getting at?
To run multiple operations, I think you get to
Yeah,
a
you
point
have
where
to.
you have to,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, of course.
And you got really good managers around you to protect you
Yeah.
as well.
But you're
from-
saying you need to know the ins and outs at a
Yeah, yeah,
baseline
yeah.
level before you can hand it over to someone, because
So there's not that risk.
there's
Yeah.
no risk,
There's
because
no
if you just
risk.
hand something to someone that you have no idea about, they could be doing a 0% job and you wouldn't even know.
you don't know. Guys, people take advantage of you.
Yeah.
You know,
True.
and I'm like very trusting. Like I've grown people in our business from receptionist to general manager. Like that's one of my biggest claim to fame. Like I've literally grown one guy from reception to general. Didn't even know how to write an email.
Wow.
And this guy was generating over $250,000 in
Wow.
2 years.
Wow.
Talk about a mentor.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I know it's there, but they still take advantage of you.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Doesn't matter how trusting you are.
Yeah,
So
love that.
for us, I think learning the key skills in business allows you to adopt a greater mindset where you can then onboard the right people and help them, and you know what's happening. But the biggest thing is you never rely on anyone. You can do it yourself if you have to. You can turn up.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can
yeah.
keep turning up if you want to.
Love that.
That's incredible. So that's even, that's even targeted towards like business owners, because we're not just targeting towards young men, even business owners. If you own a business, learn all the ins and outs of all the different aspects of your business or where you're trying to get into.
Yep.
So then you don't have to rely on other people. You know that you can do it yourself, and then you can delegate if need be.
And use the low times, guys. Like use the low times as a blessing from your faith to go. This is now going to teach me how to do this. How do I solve this problem?
That's crazy.
Right? Instead of now going home and sinking beers, a lot of guys go, "Oh, work stress. Need to go home and like have beers." Go home and go. How am I gonna show up and actually take control?
Yeah. Love
Right?
that.
Like be a man. You're put in that position because you're meant to be in that position. Take ownership because you will feel the best you ever have when you take ownership.
Love that.
Amazing.
Well, and that's a perfect way to, I think, wrap up the episode.
Yeah.
We've spoken about so many things, from property investing to Airbnbs to mindset to failures to ups and downs. I think, the boys in the locker room would have taken so much value from all those bombs that you dropped, bro.
100%.
So,
That was
and that's
incredible.
why obviously we got
Incredible.
you on, because we knew you'd bring significant value as you do to, me as a friend
Yeah.
and all of us. So if there was one last piece of advice which you could give young men watching this out there to, be on the right track to sort of emulate something that you've done, because obviously you've been a massive success in so many areas, give us a final spiel on what they can do right now.
Right
what
now.
they can implement
Exactly.
today.
Boys, listen up.
Listen up.
I want to say this. A lot of us feel like we're investing our time and we're doing something great for ourselves. But then you look back in like 3 years from now and go, what was I really doing? And right now you'll even think 3 years ago, what the hell was I really doing? I thought I knew my shit, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Right? Guys, start now and elevate your mind as quick as you can. Because if not, the world moves around you so fast, and it already is. And you know it deep down that it already is. That you just need to get up and go. Push yourself as much as you can every day, because if you dig deep hard enough, I've got a cool quote that I say. I've got a couple actually.
Yeah.
But the first one is
Same.
it's now or never, right?
Wow.
Because if you don't do it now, it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
And you know that deep down. But another cool one that I picked up from David Goggins, and I don't even watch the guy. I've never even read a book, but this one resonated so hard when I
You
heard
should
it.
read. It's amazing.
Really?
He's got some good books.
I've never even read it. But he always says when your mind tells you that you need to quit right now because you can't go anymore, he goes, physiologically, you actually have 40% left.
Yeah,
Can't
I've
hurt
read
me.
this one. I've
Yeah.
read this one.
You should borrow that book with
And
that
that
quote.
40% rules changed my life, because it doesn't matter where I am. If I'm at the gym and I'm like, man, I'm dying, my heart's like pumping out of my chest, I'm like, I've still got 40% to go from now.
I love that, bro. That's
Exactly.
such a good mindset.
Right? And like if I'm at work, if I'm pushing myself, even if I'm trying to make money, if I'm trying to help someone, I'm like, I can help them 40% more. Keep going.
Wow.
Right? So
Yeah.
I think, guys, push yourself as hard as you can, because you don't know your true depths until you actually get there. And you probably never ever find it. But don't be 80. And you'll realize that you'll have no option but to surrender, because your health is now slipping away. And that's the way life works. If you've got an opportunity to make a change now, do it right now, because in the future, you won't be able to.
Wow.
Thanks, guys.
Execute.
That was
Execute.
absolutely incredible. So
That's
guys,
it.
if you're listening to this, implement something right now.
Execute right now.
Right now.
And
That
where
was
can
incredible.
people find you, Sanjay, just to quickly finish it off?
Just Instagram, guys, the Parasher. You guys can find me on YouTube as well. But if you just search me up, you guys will definitely be able to find me.
We'll put all the links in the description. And Yeah, this is a good time to end this podcast. I'm about to make my first offer, Rhino, right now. We're about to execute now or never. And to finish off this incredible episode with value, thank you to our sponsors, Getaways. Sydney's a very big city, and you don't always get this view everywhere. You know, this is the most iconic landmarks in the entire city, in the entire country, most likely. And yeah, shout out to Getaways. You know, these guys have been amazing to us in terms of allowing us to use their facilities to do this podcast every single week. So if you guys do want to check them out, make sure to go to getaways.com.au or look in the link in the description below.